Reading through the Bible in a year, July 12th, Joshua 16 through 17, Psalm 148, Jeremiah 8, and Matthew chapter 22. The allotment for the people of Joseph went from the Jordan by Jericho, east of the waters of Jericho, into the wilderness, going up from Jericho into the hill country to Bethel. Then, going from Bethel to Luz, it passed along to Ataroth, the territory of the Archites. Then it goes down westward to the territory of the Japhletites, as far as the territory of Beth Lower Horon. Starting over, Lower Beth Horon. Then to Gazer, and it ends at the sea. The people of Joseph, Manasseh, and Ephraim received their inheritance. The territory of the people of Ephraim by their clans was as follows. The boundary of their inheritance on the east was Ataroth Adar, as far as Upper Beth Horon, and the boundary goes from there to the sea. On the north is Mikmethoth. Then on the east, the boundary turns around toward Taanath Shiloh, and passes along beyond it on the east to Genoa. Then it goes down from Genoa to Ataroth into Naara, and touches Jericho, ending at the Jordan. From Tappuah, the boundary goes westward to the brook Kana, and ends at the sea. Such is the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Ephraim by their clans, together with the towns that were set apart for the people of Ephraim within the inheritance of the Manassites, all those towns with their villages. However, they did not drive out the Canaanites who lived in Gazer, so the Canaanites have lived in the midst of Ephraim to this day, but have been made to do forced labor. Then allotment was made to the people of Manasseh, for he was firstborn of Joseph. The Maker, the son of Manasseh, the father of Gilead, were allotted Gilead and Bashan, because he was a man of war. And allotments were made to the rest of the people of Manasseh by their clans: Abiezer, Halek, Azriel, Shechem, Hepher, and Shemida. These were the male descendants of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, by their clans. Now Zelophehad, the son of Hepher, the son of Gilead, son of Maker, son of Manasseh, had no sons, but only daughters. And these are the names of his daughters: Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. And they approached Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun, the leaders, and said, Yahweh commanded Moses to give us an inheritance along with our brothers. So according to the mouth of Yahweh, he gave them an inheritance among the brothers of their father. Thus there fell to Manasseh 10 portions, besides the land of Gilead and Bashan, which is on the other side of the Jordan, because the daughters of Manasseh received an inheritance along with his sons. The land of Gilead was allotted to the rest of the people of Manasseh. The territory of Manasseh reached from Asher to Mikmethoth, which is east of Shechem. Then the boundary goes along southward to the inhabitants of En-Tappuah. The land of Tappuah belonged to Manasseh, but the town of Tappuah on the boundary of Manasseh belonged to the people of Ephraim. Then the boundary went to the brook Kana. These cities to the south of the brook, among the cities of Manasseh, belonged to Ephraim. Then the boundary of Manasseh goes on the north side of the brook and ends at the sea. The land to the south being Ephraim's, and that to the north being Manasseh's, with the sea forming its boundary. On the north, Asher is reached, and on the east, Issachar. Also, in Issachar and in Asher, Manasseh had Beth Shean and its villages, and Ibleam and its villages, and the inhabitants of Dor and its villages, and the inhabitants of Endor and its villages, and the inhabitants of Tanakh and its villages, and the inhabitants of Megiddo and its villages. The third is Naphath. Yet the people of Manasseh could not take possession of those cities, but the Canaanites persisted in dwelling in that land. Now, when the people of Israel grew strong, they put the Canaanites to forced labor, but did not utterly drive them out. Then the people of Joseph spoke to Joshua, saying, Why have you given me but one lot and one portion as an inheritance, although I am a numerous people, since all along Yahweh has blessed me? And Joshua said to them, if you are a numerous people, go up by yourselves to the forest, and there clear ground for yourselves in the land of the Perizzites and the Rephaim, since the hill country of Ephraim is too narrow for you. The people of Joseph said, the hill country is not enough for us. Yet all the Canaanites who dwell in the plain have chariots of iron, both those in Beth Shean and its villages, and those in the valley of Jezreel. Then Joshua said to the house of Joseph, to Ephraim and Manasseh, you are a numerous people and have great power. You shall not have one allotment only, but the hill country shall be yours. For though it is a forest, you shall clear it and possess it to its farthest borders, and you shall drive out the Canaanites, though they have chariots of iron, and though they are strong. Now, Psalm 148. Praise Yahweh. Praise Yahweh from the heavens. Praise him in the heights. Praise him, all his angels. Praise him, all his hosts. Praise him, sun and moon. Praise him, all you shining stars. Praise him, you highest heavens, and you, waters above the heavens. Let them praise the name of Yahweh, for he commanded, and they were created, and he established them forever and ever. He gave a decree, and it shall not pass away. Praise Yahweh from the earth, you great sea creatures and all deeps, fire and hail, snow and mist, stormy wind fulfilling his word, mountains and all hills, fruit trees and all cedars, beasts and all livestock, creeping things and flying birds, kings of the earth and all peoples, princes and all rulers of the earth, young men and maidens, or young women together, old men and children. Let them praise the name of Yahweh, for his name alone is exalted. His majesty is above earth and heaven. He has raised up a horn for his people. Praise for all his saints, for the people of Israel who are near to him. Praise Yahweh. And now Jeremiah chapter 8. At that time, declares Yahweh, the bones of the kings of Judah and the bones of its officials, the bones of the priests, the bones of the prophets, the bones of the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be brought out of their tombs. Again, this is the same thing that had the name yesterday. I keep wanting to say Joab, but I know it's not Joab. It's a different guy. Anyway, the same thing that king, the somewhat good king in Israel, did, this is the same thing that will be done here. Continuing on, they shall be spread before the sun and the moon and all the hosts of heaven, which they have loved and served, which they have gone after. Because again, they were worshiping demons, and by way of those demons, they were worshiping the sun, the moon, the stars, all of these other idols that people worshipped, and all these other physical things that God has created for the benefit of mankind. They were worshiping those things instead of the God who created them. Continuing on, in which they sought and worshipped. And they shall not be gathered or buried. They shall be as dung on the surface of the ground. Death shall be preferred to life by all the remnant that remains of this evil family in all the places where I have driven them, declares Yahweh of hosts. You shall say to them, thus says Yahweh, when men fall, do they not rise again? If one turns away, does he not return? Why then has this people turned away in perpetual backsliding? They hold fast to deceit. They refuse to return. I have paid attention and listened, but they have not spoken rightly. No man relents of his evil, saying, what have I done? Everyone returns to his own course. Like a horse plunging headlong into battle. Even the stork in the heavens knows her times, and the turtle dove, swallow, and crane keep the time of their coming. But my people know not the rules of Yahweh. How can you say, we are wise and the law of Yahweh is with us? But behold, the lying pen of the scribes has made it into a lie. The wise men shall be put to shame. They shall be dismayed and taken. Behold, they have rejected the word of Yahweh. So what wisdom is in them? Therefore, I will give their wives to others, and their fields to conquerors. Because from the least to the greatest, everyone is greedy for unjust gain. From prophet to priest, everyone deals falsely. They have healed the wound of my people lightly, saying, peace, peace, when there is no peace. Were they ashamed when they committed abomination? No, they were not at all ashamed. They did not know how to blush. Therefore, they shall fall among the fallen. When I punish them, they shall be overthrown, declares Yahweh. When I would gather them, declares Yahweh. There are no grapes on the vine, nor figs on the fig tree. Even the leaves are withered. And what I gave them has passed away from them. Why do we sit still? Gather together. Let us go into the fortified cities and perish there. For Yahweh, our God, has doomed us to perish, and has given us poisoned water to drink, because we have sinned against Yahweh. We looked for peace, but no good came. For a time of healing, but behold, terror. The snorting of their horses is heard from Dan, and at the sound of the neighing of their stallions, the whole land quakes. They come and devour the land and all that fills it, the city and those who dwell in it. For behold, I am sending you among serpents, adders that cannot be charmed, and they shall bite you, declares Yahweh. My joy is gone. My grief is upon me. My heart is sick within me. Behold the cry of the daughter of my people from the length and breadth of the land. Is Yahweh not in Zion? Is her king not in her? Why have they provoked me to anger with their carved images and with their foreign idols? The harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. For the wound of the daughter of my people is my heart wounded. I mourn, and dismay has taken hold on me. Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? Why then has the health of the daughter of my people not been restored? Get into more of this tomorrow, including today in Matthew 22. And again, Jesus spoke to them in parables, saying, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son, and sent his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding feast, but they would not come. Again, he sent his other servants, saying, tell those who were invited, see, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fat calves have been slaughtered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding feast. But they paid no attention and went off, one to his farm, another to his business, while the rest seized his servants and treated them shamefully and killed them. The king was angry, and he sent his troops and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Then he said to his servants, the wedding feast is ready, but those invited were not worthy. Go therefore to the main roads and invite to the wedding feast as many as you find. And those servants went out into the roads and gathered all that they found, both bad and good. So the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to look at the guests, he saw there a man who had no wedding garment. And he said to him, friend, how did you get in here without a wedding garment? He was speechless. Then the king said to the attendants, bind him hand and foot and cast him into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. I'm going to read the note on this from the ESV Study Bible. Quote, well, let's read both about the man who had no wedding garment and then the term many. So the man who had no wedding garment. Everyone was invited, but proper wedding attire was still expected. There are two possibilities of what this means. First, there is some evidence in the ancient world for a king supplying garments for his guests. And more broadly, there is the story of God clothing his unworthy people in beautiful garments. We read about this in Ezekiel. Jesus could thus be alluding to imputed righteousness, which Paul elaborates later in Romans 3 and 4. Thus, by not wearing the garments provided, this guest has highly insulted the host. The second option is that the wedding garment may refer to a clean garment, symbolizing evidence of righteous works. In either case, the man lacks something that is essential for being accepted at the wedding feast. Now to the line, many are called, but few are chosen. Greek, or many is poloi. Many are called means that many have been invited to the wedding feast. But not all those invited are actually the ones who are supposed to be there, because few are chosen. This has been described as the doctrine of a general calling. The gospel is proclaimed to all people everywhere, both those who will believe and those who will not. However, Paul also mentions another kind of calling, an effective or effectual calling from God that comes powerfully to individuals and brings a positive response. The effectual call, well, the general call itself is like, what's a good way to put this? When you're calling to your children to bring them in for dinner, you are calling outside saying, dinner's ready, come home. Suppose everybody who hears it could come in. They could come in and dine with you. It'll be a little bit less food for other people, but that's the idea, is that you're making a general call. However, there is within that general call an effectual call that your children will hear and immediately respond to. Why? Because they are your children. They know your voice, and they know that when you call, you are calling them, and then they come home. So that's the difference between a general call, which is the general call being given out, and the effectual call, which is being shown here, those who are chosen, also known as those who are of the elect. Continuing on. Back to the text. The gospel is proclaimed to, well, I already said that one. Paul also mentions another kind of calling, the effective or effectual calling from God that comes powerfully to individuals and brings that positive response. When the gospel is proclaimed, only some are effectively or effectually called. That is, those who are of the elect, who respond with true faith. We read about this in 1 Corinthians 1, 24, 26 through 28. This is consistent with Jesus' statement that few are chosen. For the ones chosen, again, from the Greek eklektos, meaning elected or chosen, are the elect, and the term used by Jesus to refer to his true disciples. Now on to verse 15 here. Then the Pharisees went and plotted how to entangle him in his words. And they sent their disciples to him, along with the Herodians, saying, Teacher, we know that you are true and teach the way of God truthfully, and you do not care about anyone's opinion, for you are not swayed by appearances. Tell us then, what do you think? Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? They were hoping to get Jesus to say something that would get him in trouble with the law. Therefore, they could, just let them deal with him. But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, Why put me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin for the tax. They brought him a denarius. And Jesus said to them, Whose likeness and inscription is this? And they said, Caesar's. Then he said to them, Therefore render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. When they heard it, they marveled, and they left him and went away. Today's age, what do you mean they marveled? Remember in Genesis 1, who bears the image of God? Human beings. If we should render to Caesar the things that bear the image of Caesar, should we who bear the image of God, render ourselves to the service of God? That's why they marveled. Verse 23, the same day the Sadducees came to him, who say that there is no resurrection, therefore they are sad. You see? And they asked him a question, saying, Teacher, Moses said that if a man dies, having no children, his brother must marry the widow and raise up offspring for his brother. Now, there were 7 brothers among us. The first married and died, and having no offspring, he left his wife to his brother. So too the second and the third, down to the 7th. And after them all, the woman died, probably because she had been married to 7 men. And the resurrection, therefore, of the 7, whose wife will she be? For they all had her. But Jesus answered them, you are wrong, because you do not know the scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. And as for the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was said to you by God? I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. He is not the God of the dead, but of the living. And the crowds heard it. They were astonished at his teaching. But when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together. And one of them, a lawyer, not like a lawyer like we know a lawyer, he's an expert in the laws and the law of God, asked a question to test Jesus. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. And this is the great and first commandment. The second is like it, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments depend all the law and the prophets. Why is that? The first tablet of the law, 1 through 3, covers how we should treat God. Therefore, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. Other translations include the word strength here, so all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. The second, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Well, that's commandments 5 through 10. Because if you keep those, you are keeping the commandment to love your neighbors. Verse 41. Now, while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them a question, saying, what do you think about the Christ? Whose son is he? They said to him, the son of David. That's what they were calling out after Jesus. That's it's like the Sunday school answer. When you're a child in Sunday school, the answer is always Jesus. Well, for young Jews, the answer is always the son of David or the Mashiach, the Messiah, right? They didn't know it was the same person, but that's okay. So Jesus replied to them, well, how is it then that David, in the Spirit, calls the Christ Lord, saying, the Lord said to my Lord, literally Yahweh said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet. If David calls him Lord, how is he his son? No one was able to answer him a word, nor from that day did anyone dare to ask him any more questions. That's all for today. That is all the reading and all of the notes. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. Behold, the word of the Lord.